Hunter x Hunter, the season finale. Season 9 finale, whatever. Because it's not the series finale. They knew. They deliberately did all of this. Wow. Going back to Whale Island, where it all started. Someone's gonna get a very big letter from Gon. Oh no, oh no. Well... Good. Ultimately, that is the best way you could possibly contextualize that and explain it to yourself. More importantly, it's just a really nice way to approach Outlook as a whole. I think the truth is really important, but there are just a lot of things you don't know. Given the uncertainty, as long as you're accounting for major risks, it's just nice and cool and gives you the best chance to take the highest, most positive outlook on the thing. For counterexample, Gon can say, it's because he didn't love me. And the truth is, he doesn't know, like we don't know, what is the percentage breakdown in Jing and his heart, you know, how much of it is loving being a hunter, how much of it is his deliberate strategy for Gon and loving Gon, or just not really being that ass to be around his son. So if you can't know the truth yet, what's the goal? The goal is to like do as well as you can. For example, the takeaway Gon could have had is Jing left because he doesn't love me and I'm worthless and life sucks at the end. And not only would that have been obviously terrible for him, but it also could have been wrong. He could have preempted any chance he had of success for nothing. If I had to guess based only on what I've seen, I'd say it's a combination of a bunch of things that are overall positive. Like, yeah, Jing is preoccupied, but at the same time, I think Jing really believes in the grow up tough philosophy. And if you're gonna make it in this world and be someone, you gotta figure it out. No one's gonna hold your hand in the end world. This is the world of Chimera ants. Maybe there's a little bit of a test in it too. You know, like it would be fine if Gon just didn't become a hunter and stayed at home with Mito. But if he is right for it, he will do it. It's a very, you are maximally responsible type thing from a much earlier age than we would usually consider appropriate. But, I mean, the proof is in what happened, because he is the kind of person that is well suited for that. He followed his nose and he ended up being something that is both great and also sort of in Gon's hands. Even if there's some delusion in there somewhere for Gon. The cool thing being that you don't have to be perfectly right or have the perfect starting point, because you can alter that as you go. The important thing is getting started on the right path. That's some strong freak's DNA. Didn't we already find it? I guess that didn't count. We moved the goalposts. But you didn't find me outside of the Hunter Association building. Oh no, we're never gonna find out, are we? Well, he's hunting for his dream. I mean, metaphorically, we know. They lit a fire under Gon. Anyone else would have been pissed. Like, what are you talking about? I just found you. Someone to continue the dream. Hilarious that I asked the question, what does Gon do after finding Jing? Turns out the answer is find Jing again. Just keep finding Jing. It's finding Jing all the way down. But it's working, like he's growing, right? That actually is largely true to my experiences. I'm always looking for this thing because I think this thing is really important. And as I approach this thing, I learn and grow. And then somewhere along the path, I realize, well, actually that thing is good to aim at. It's a nice target, but it's actually one level down from a bigger thing. It was a reflection that came from this great thing that is a little bit more easy to process and understand. It's a little more concrete. So I just aim for that. But like walking along that path, you see something bigger beyond it. And you're like, oh, that's what I should be aiming for. How do I get more directly there? And that probably leads to you pivoting your path a little bit. So many of the great things I've had in my life came from aiming for other things. I think it's important to make the distinction that those are not random. It's not like random events were the best things. The good things that I wasn't quite anticipating were a direct result of me going after the thing I was anticipating. It's just that my view sort of expanded. A very small example for me that comes to mind, and I don't think I've ever said this out loud, but in a way that for me feels very direct, YouTube, everything came out of a plan to go to business school, which I'm really glad didn't happen, but I had a big plan and I was working towards it and that pushed me. In that sense, speaking about the hunting for your dream thing, which has been a point of fascination for me watching the show, maybe it's good if in some way the dream is unattainable. Like you're deliberately picking a dream that's so large, it's nearly impossible. I actually think I can tie that really well into Pariston, but I'll say that for later. I'm gonna climb this tree. He's not at the top of the tree going, when will you learn? Past X and X future. Yes, think of the future. Pick the best mindset that keeps you going. All right, go and give a challenge and an obligation to reach the top of this tree in one episode. You better run. Oh, Kurapika. The character that just wasn't really. We had that one fun time. Yeah, speaking of running, they're going so hard with the flashbacks here towards the end. There he is. I was just speaking about that. I was just talking about Zushi. Left him out of that last end credits flashback. God, was running important. The Hunter exam was really well made. That's my final assessment of it. Oh, now we got a little bit of a dark era of our lives. But it all looks different now, doesn't it? That's the beauty of success and dream fulfillment. It just totally rewrites the feeling of everything. I thought that was the whole point. Oh, now with the regulations again. Do you know who I am? Do you know what I've been through? I killed a Chimera ant. Oh, we're using it. Yeah. Flex on him going. That's interesting phrasing. It's not about liability, it's about caring. You must sign a release for your desire to live. Gon could have signed that from the first episode. He does not care. Wow. Wow. Those are relics of the dead. They're tombstones. I'm half expecting Gon to rip that off. I did something like this in China. You walk along the mountain on the sheer cliff on like a 6-inch plank of wood, with just a straight drop. But of course, you're harnessed up and everything. Like Gon, I also almost couldn't do it after hiking all the way up there because they don't allow people to go alone. So I just found some really nice guy who pretended to be my friend and signed for me. Really cool experience. Won't be needing them. Yeah, right. He's up, not down. Can't fall that fast. And this isn't even Nen, right? Like, didn't he lose on Nen? Gon is just like this. No fear. Even though it's an animated show, it's still giving me a little bit of anxiety. That 1 foot thing, just showing off. Gon really doing it. He's trying to finish this arc in a day. Respect. This isn't Nen, is it? I thought he didn't have Nen. He's just like this. This is Gon. He just feels the tree. I think actually there's a really great opportunity for Gon's character in the future. The rock, scissors, paper thing was cool, but I think it played really specifically into the contrast of that scene with the childishness of rock, scissors, paper and just the absolute demonic possession that Gon was experiencing at that time and all the darkness. The rock, scissors, paper thing, it was cute, but it never really felt like it matched anything significantly for Gon himself. But Gon has so many built-in natural elements that would be so cool to see translated into Nen. One of them is his affinity for nature and his beastliness. This actually, among all the things that we've seen people do in the show, this actually seems one of the more reasonable. Because people do climb tall buildings without equipment, which seems harder than this. I don't know, looks like you're doing alright to me. Yeah, why didn't you press the button? Call an ambulance, but not for me. They're doing a great job giving me that feeling of height, even through animation. They did a great job with this. Is that a nest? Is it the house for one of Jing's magical creatures? You did it, Gon. I'm so happy. I really feel grateful that they did this. It could have been 10 episodes on the tray. And that's a baby, so it's going to be a huge one. Is Jing going to be riding it? How do you get down? He has still not learned about the danger of animals. Oh, he's actually here. He's actually here. And he actually waited. That's even more surprising. Fatherhood begins.
ま、初めてですから9代目。
Pathetic. But you'll get better. Look at us sharing apples now. Oh, this is really cool. Maybe we'll find out. I'm hunting for a dream. That is it, isn't it? That is it, yeah. Right. This is the thesis of the show, I think. I think another thing you can put in for dream, because dream sort of will naturally conjure up images of goals, is ideal. The perfect imagined state is not something that exists like other things. It's not something that you can grab and touch because it's such a massive thing. You can never write it down on paper. You could never fully embody it, at least not permanently. You can use words to talk about it, but the words don't contain it. The Tao that can be spoken is not the true Tao. We use the word God, but there's no way to encapsulate the fullness of what we're trying to get at through the word God, and in fact, often it takes a very lowly form. And striving for that, speaking of framing and perspective, you're kind of making a deal with it, or with yourself, that you're taking it on humbly, where you're not laying claim to it. You're not doing it to disguise actually a smaller motivation like ego or whatever. You're making yourself subservient to something greater than you, whatever that thing is. You're putting faith in that and you're trusting it to guide you into being as good as you possibly can be. I think this is maybe one of those universals among heroic characters where their guiding star is so massive it's face melting and they'll never get there, but they have really great aim. And also they're very good at making themselves aerodynamic so they can move towards it as quickly as possible. So like they never let something as harmless as a thought defeat them. Other people's words, momentary circumstantial challenges, unnecessarily negative framing, the ability to sacrifice, and the ability to hone what their version of that thing is. Because they really do authentically, genuinely have that goal of getting there. So anything that is not pointing there or is encumbering them towards getting there, once they see it, they're thrilled to get rid of it. Getting truth that reveals a way one can change to be more aerodynamic towards that path feels rewarding. Like I said earlier, I think the way we typically break that down is we aim for something concrete. And that is actually really great. It's good to have a goal. It's good to have something where you can plot a course and have steps instead of sort of this ambiguous greatness or perfection or God or whatever. But then simultaneously sort of having that grounding of, well, what is the actual goal? What is the real game? So that you're never stuck towards one thing, because the goal you're seeing is not the highest goal. That keeps you from getting imprisoned towards one thing that is just a reflection of the thing, not the actual thing. It's of course really difficult. It takes a lot of energy. But I think people like Jing and Gon, they so deeply intuit the beauty of that thing that they're naturally called to it. The steps are happening automatically. I also think there was maybe a mistake I was making about this, because I think in the past when thinking about this idea, one place I sort of got stuck was like, well, is that it? You're just like constantly moving and changing the goalposts and going after new things. There's no end. Always chasing the next shiny thing. That's sort of meaningless. And there's potentially something to that. Meaninglessly continuing to chase the next shiny thing or getting distracted from your main goal because something is easier or more pleasurable or whatever, that I think is a genuine risk. But I think if you're actually on the path, there's nothing wrong. And it's actually a beautiful thing that there is no end and that you're constantly looking for how to get closer to this glowing light over here. And I think that becomes a little bit more clear when it stops being about you and starts being about what you're a part of. So through your journey going after this thing, you're also like sending out light. You're part of this system. You're definitely growing, even though it doesn't feel that way or doesn't seem that way, if that is your orientation. And inevitably, in ways that are fully hard to explain, you are definitely creating a slipstream for other people, and you're adding positivity. You're making the light more clear, and that influence will carry out into humanity for the entirety of its existence, and I would argue through existence itself for its entire existence. And so this very thing ends up being something like service. It's one of those things that's hard to see, but you can kind of get a glimpse of in moments. When it hits you, you realize that this is really the only thing that matters.
俺がハンターになろうと思ったのは、うぜえ
Jing's such a warm, loving person.
俺が行きたかった場所に入るのに、ハンターが一番現実的だったからだ。
He's an archaeologist, right? See the things you can't see.
自費での調査しか許されない状態だった。
There's also something Irwin about it. Irwin Smith, which is high praise for me. I want to know the truth.
15の時に特定非営利活動法人を設立して、
You know, your typical 15-year-old behavior, right? We've been there.
ライセンスを取得してからの2年はずっとネットで考古学マニアのサイトやブログ巡りさ。
Hunting for this online dream
金も名誉もいらないからただ真実を知りたいっていう変わり者で。
that I could control and manipulate.
口が固くて信頼できるメンツが法人設立のため10人くらい必要だったからな。
Probably really hard to find overall, that whole package.
俺はいつも今俺が必要としてるものを
You don't say. I like how the birds are listening.
どうでもいいくらいにな。わかんねえか。
I think I'm with you.
もう少し話すか。
I think it's related to what I was saying. It's like you're walking towards this great purpose, but the purpose is sort of beyond your reach for the moment. What you actually interact with on a moment-to-moment basis are things you have a very tactile feel for. This moment and these actions and this activity, these people. I think there's something in this connected to flow. You know, like I'm sure everyone's had this experience where you're doing something that's just so engaging and so gripping. It's a feeling of exactly the right place at exactly the right time. There are no other concerns, considerations. You're not thinking about where it's going. But like, of course, that probably is indicative of the fact that it's taking you somewhere really important.
ネットで知り合ってオフ会で意気投合したそいつらはみんな俺より年上で普通の会社員や院生やフリーターだったりした。
Hire me, Jing.
念願かなって応募の中に足を踏み入れた時
It's Aaron's
俺が
basement.
一番嬉しかったのはずっと願ってた応募の真実を目の当たりにしたことじゃなく一緒に中へ入ったそいつらと
At the treasure, which was my friends. It's the real treasure. Surprisingly warm. Well, Gon understands that, or he's getting to understand that.
今も無償で役員をしながら俺に生きた情報をくれる。
Okay.
この連中と比べたら応募
You
の
should pay
真
him.
実は
Go,
ただ
Jing,
の
pay him. Alright, that's great. Can you pay him?
欲しいものより先に来た。
Right. Yeah, he knows. He gets it. This is a great day one of fatherhood.
世界で一番高い木で1784メートルあるって。
それは間違ってない。
Something you're not seeing. Where other people see just a tree, I see
成長の止まった若木だ。
something to do. Thought it was a little bit stunted. Seems a little bit small. Not the best you could do. Need nutrients.
大気圏を超えてなおでかくなる。
That sounds like it could be a problem, but okay.
お前もよく知ってる世界地図さ。
We're going to space.
お前や会長が戦ったアリも 外側から来た外来種
We had our scope way too small.
常識のある大人はあえてパンドラの箱に触れまいとしている
Oof. That's a big one. Deep tangent incoming. Really, I just want to talk about Pariston. Honestly, I didn't get enough time to talk about the election arc. It was over so quickly. But it was really interesting timing because a lot of things intersected in my life simultaneously. One was the election arc. One was an actual election. And another is that I've been playing Persona 5, which has an election. And politics is very core to that plot. I think the way I used to look at choice and societal choice is that it's like this many people collectively choosing something. What I think is maybe more realistic is that there's a small minority of people who care about different things for a variety of reasons. I mean, it could be just selfishness, self-interest. It could be because they think it's for the greater good. And then the remaining majority, which actually are the most important because they're the ones who drive the action. They're the ones that contain the most energy and power. Don't really care so much about the stated thing and really are caring about something different. And so can be redirected and kind of herded towards the aims of those really interested by sort of appealing to what they want, which could be a lot of things that are not the actual thing. So it could be just feelings of belonging, could be just wanting an identity of being a good person, could be wanting a feeling that I understand the world and I have actual direct input into the world. It could be wanting to avoid challenge and difficulty. I mean, what sparked this thought is that Jing said people don't want to go near Pandora's box because Pandora's box has a lot inside. Initially, we'd probably have to give up a lot of what we have to look inside Pandora's box. And there's so many layers and tricks to this, which actually Hunter x Hunter speaks very well to, where it's something like, there's only two options in life. You can be a this and, that's maybe not the best choice, right? Or if you really want to understand things, you can choose that. And, that has its problems, but at least it's not this. People are like, yeah, I think I'm going to be a that. Completely missing both this and that, whichever one you think is better. Both categories contain a victory. They're both compliance. You are now an agent of the status quo of this game. And that actually may be very important. Like that is the grounding of stability of the system. And the system can be really useful and it can be very dangerous to deal away with the system. Simultaneously, you are now somewhat captive to the system. You're not participating in the system deliberately. You're participating in the system because you didn't know there was anything outside of the system. I also don't think this is necessarily a person, and I don't think it's done deliberately. I think it's an organic life form that grows out of society, though that doesn't mean it can't be used deliberately or is never used deliberately. And also like The Matrix, and I never appreciated the sequels initially, but the more I think about them, the more I like them. The way people will enforce the game is by giving you red herrings to make you see beyond the game, but those are extensions of the game. So for example, tricks will roll in and people will identify those tricks like, oh, that's a this. I know what this is. You can't fool me. I'm not a this, I'm a that. But you're still in the dichotomy of this or that. I mean, I think it's almost impossible to escape because escaping is sort of like that ideal. It's like perfect fluidity of thought and truth. Whereas, we have to function in day-to-day society and engage with things the way they are. And we have very human emotions and experiences and fears, and the practical is very important. You can't make it about ignoring the existing system. So it's this weird, bizarre combination of participating in a system healthily while also not being a captive to it, having another aim, sort of seeing past it. And I happen to think anyone is capable of it, but not many people will choose it just because it's really difficult. A-B choice or ABC choice or whatever is kind of nice. It's simple. It's pleasing. I think that's the function it serves. To use Persona 5's analogy, some people like their prisons. They choose their prisons. Sometimes your prison can even feel good. It can feel like protection against something dangerous. It's structure versus chaos, and structure is something you can more meaningfully rely on. That I think is part of what makes it so fun to see characters like Jing and Pariston, finally, who's not trying to win or lose. He's trying to play the game. He's not looking for the outcome of this. He's looking for something else. I think actually Jing and Pariston are probably very similar. They just have very different methodologies and value systems about what they can stomach in that pursuit. But it's no coincidence that they're rivals, right? They have that in common. And there is an opposite side of this that I think is also not good, which is like nothing is real, burn everything to the ground, no respect for existing systems, no question as to why something that appears negative continues to exist without considering how we got here and what function maybe it's serving that we can't fully understand or see. Tying all these ideas together, the actual ideal is godliness, like you're not going to get there. And it sucks even looking at it, especially at first, until you start to acclimate. It's not a lifetime process. It's like a universal time process, but that's the dream. Here's, I think, a very rough heuristic, and this is scary. I have a feeling no matter what the issue is, no matter how right or wrong someone is about something, the litmus test of whether or not you're defending your own prison is whether you get angry. Because events of life can certainly hurt you. Ideas certainly can't, and the knowledge that people hold ideas certainly can't. It may reflect reality that you're in danger, but that means that was already the case, and you've now revealed something that is true, and so it's good. The anger typically comes from preservation of a previously held worldview. No words or ideas are themselves threatening. Only what they point to is threatening. That is, I think, why it comes across so clearly that Pariston is way ahead of Dog Girl in the game. Gon has the right disposition for this, and you can see that now. Gon just passed a very subtle test. And we're not even really talking about worlds here, or physical land. This is such a heavy metaphor.
今も昔も変わらない。
It was worth a trip, for real, this whole
目
thing.
の前にない何かだ。
He's given him so much. This, I think, is the thesis of the show, again. But with cute birds. If you're gonna deliver your show's thesis, deliver it with cute birds on a world tree with a sunset.
外へ行くために必要なものが多い。
Oh man, seeing it this way is so funny.
道中を楽しんでる最中だ。だからもし
You leaving again? I thought we were gonna... The third Finding Jing begins.
戦を楽しみ。大いにね、欲しいものより大切なものがきっとそっちに転がってる。
Wow, this paid off. Wow, Jing had a difficult task. It wasn't easy. He had to justify this whole quest and pursuit, all the heartache we've gone through, all the different lands we've been to, just to find this one flawed man. All these doubts of like, well, is that really going to do anything for you? And it did. Jing giving him something you just can't find. You can't find this. This is a major thing for Gon to get and understand at this point in his life, at his young age, because it's something that almost can't even be gotten at any age fully. To have it be laid out so directly like this, to have the star pointed out to you in the night sky. He touched so many different aspects of it. You know, it's like the great thing, the thing out there that most people are afraid of. The fact that it's hard to get to directly, there's a lot that it takes. So you focus on the thing you can do first, and you do that really well, and you'll get something different than what you wanted, but if you're doing it right, probably better than you ever expected, which I think just sort of by definition is what has to happen, because it's very tightly connected to uncovering unknowns. So how could you possibly have anticipated the good thing you were going to get if part of the fact that it's good is that it's unknown? You know, underlying this whole process, necessary to this whole process, is sufficient outlook that gets you out doing the things, whatever those things are. It doesn't even have to necessarily be leaving your house. I'm going to make a very controversial statement, and I'm actually really surprised at my own feelings, but I'm willing to upgrade Jing from worst father ever to one of the best fathers ever, just based on what he's giving Gon right now. And if this was the plan from the beginning, it's better than any of that predictive end stuff I was speculating on, or using Gon as a tool for, you know, some very specific plan. It's like, no, he's trying to give him the world, but also critically not attached to it, because that would sort of ruin it. It's up to Gon. Gon has to want it. Gon has to have the correct orientation from the beginning, and then Jing can sort of guide him towards it as is appropriate. It's never something that Jing could have forced on him through any amount of attention and parenting. Yeah, this is inevitable. I was waiting for this to happen. I guess Jing can ride it. Bew, 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 I see. How did the species survive before the world tree? Is it because of the world tree that it's alive? Mission complete in so many ways. And Jing looks happy to be with him, actually. The most is excited. This is another example of just a relationship that happens it just feels natural. I don't know. It's not a big grand thing. They meet, they hang out, and it's cool. Very chill, but like in the best way. And then he was gone, never to be seen again. Aw. It is cool that the last thing we see of Gon is with Jing. I wasn't sure, like I didn't know anything about the ending of the show. I didn't know if we'd get a resolution to some of these things, but we did. Oh, there's the big letter. Huge letter from Gon this time. I did it. I found Jing. Mito did a lot. Mito was a real hero. All she did was stay on Whale Island, but like, it feels heroic to me. She let him go, and he had this journey. Oh, they had a bed, right? Oh yeah. Oh, I've lost his hair but got rich. I'm so glad all these people are still alive. Maybe we shouldn't continue the show. Maybe it's for the best we end it here before we explore alien lands, because there's more where the Chimera ants came from. I love you, Netero. Rotten hell. And Ikako gets a tablet. That's cool. What are they doing? Where are you going? What is the plan? Kalua's still hunting for his dream. All right, Laura, you got a big challenge. You got to get your doctor's license in this end credit sequence. Gon did it. If Gon can climb the world tree in one episode, you can get certified now. I need to see it happen. I waited for it this whole time. I love how Kurapika also absent. This looks like a place Kurapika would like. Yeah, it's Kurapika. Kurapika's been in this chair a long time. You need to reach out, touch a friend. I've heard that the next arc is Kurapika, so just missed it. Okay, not everyone made it out. Whoops. What? He did make it out. How? But how? Could have told us earlier before we invested all this money in a tombstone and a Heineken. I'm lost. Oh, he's one of those things? Well, wait, who died then? One of his family died? Okay, someone needs to explain that to me, please. Then it cleared up. Where's Bizef? The character we care about the most. Is Bizef okay? Maybe they're alive. Maybe they're alive. No, don't hope. Don't do it. Don't hope. Okay, well, they're still together. They did die, though. All right, that was kind of cruel, I think. Let's just show them in heaven or something, Dragon Ball style. God, this is going to be really hard to put up on YouTube. The long musical sequence. All right, I'm going to take that as a reunion. I'm taking that as a reunion, and no one can tell me any differently. Oh, why did they have to put Jing in there? It's a reunion with Kalua and Jing in the background. Yes. I love it. It's both. I really think it's both. I think it's all of it. I think the truth often is like the most difficult, more expensive thing. God, it can just go wrong in so many ways, right? Like this is part of the difficulty. You can take something really beautiful, you can reduce it to something that it's not and make it corrupted. People will tell you there is no purpose to life. Nothing matters. Just enjoy your time, which like we almost had it. Or people will tell you nothing about you and nothing about your experience matters under God. Or people will tell you all that matters is your legacy. And it's like, maybe it's all of these things. The hardest path is the highest path. If we don't know what is the most expansive viewpoint, what is the most heroic viewpoint, what is the most useful viewpoint for us, maybe it's something like our lives have grand significance. While we may not have a lot of control over things, we have a great influence on things. And the ripple effects of our lives will exist forever just by virtue of having existed. It's a great privilege to be a part of that, and so it's a responsibility to willingly participate in it and try to further really good things. But like you were put here to experience that, and you have like tactile senses to guide you towards that, and you can get great pleasure from that. It can be a really gripping, engaging thing, and that's also beautiful just in itself. It's not hedonism, right? It's not like just seek pleasure. It's like if you align with the right things, if you have the right aim, you will be constantly engaging with things that are not like directly you standing in the sun. You can't enter this light yet, and you may never be able to enter this light, but you get to play with the reflections and you get to follow this path of light towards the source through them, and that can be an immensely rewarding thing. And it's hard to experience outside of moments, but I think when things click, you feel how those things are connected. Even though things actually are difficult and a lot of work, it doesn't feel that way. It feels like there's nothing else you'd rather be doing. And that doesn't seem random to me. I don't think it's separate. I think it's all part of the same thing. It's hard to point to anything that exists in a vacuum. Wow, that was a really powerful last episode. More than I thought. I thought it would just be like, hey, I found Jing. Great. But Jing, man, he had some bombs to drop. And Gon was ready to have bombs dropped on him. Gon got all those father bombs. Gon got a father, but he got so much more. I mean, Jing is an example of the thing Jing is saying. Like, Gon is chasing for Jing, but it never was really Jing, right? Like, Gon is searching for his dream. I think that's the stand-in in the show. Dream is that thing, that great thing, whatever that is. And Gon got so much more than Jing, this person with all his flaws and eccentricities and gruffness and absenteeism. And Gon got Kahlua and Leorio and Kurapika's memory. It's a pattern that breaks down at so many different levels. So like, for example, in hunting for Jing, he gets the hunter license, but it wasn't just the hunter license. It was Kahlua and friends. It was introduction into the world, meeting obstacles he had to face like Hisoka, and maybe most importantly, running ability. And it was a sense of self. It was a sense of motion in the world. It was having full engagement with the life he's been given, pushing to their maximum the gifts he has, fine-tuning both his role in the world and his concept of self. The show is very heavy in the spirit of adventure, and life is a playground, but with so much more. There's so much more underneath it, which is like meaning. It does a really great job exploring that in a very wide, chaotic extension of like what is experience. It's interesting because compared to other shows, it's less focused on morality and goodness and very, very laser focused on that just personal creed and ethos of this exploration, this growth of spirit, non-judgmentally, growth as a process, as a goal, the methodology of growth through adventurous spirit. And that's reflected in many different ways in the show too, right? Like even just the random topic of the show, the severe tonal shifts between arc to arc. It's like, yeah, we're exploring full engagement with the world and what exists in it. I'm going to say another really controversial thing. I saw a comment predicting that this arc would be my favorite, and I think it is. Well, more accurately, I think this is the most personally interesting arc to me. I think it's definitely the most bang for your buck philosophically. It's just a couple episodes, but it delivered some pretty major interesting things, and it did it with no action. There was one fight with Hisoka, if you can even call that a fight. Also, heaviness and insightfulness of the themes aside, it also was just really important for the story. I'm super relieved having known nothing about the show other than the fact that it wasn't finished. I had all these doubts and worries about like what we'd actually get to see. Would there be a resolution to any of the things we were building? And well, there's still tons of things the show could do. In so many ways, this wrapped it up in a way that was so satisfying. It's just a huge relief to see Gon meet Jing and have this be the result, leaving their friendship on a positive note. I feel kind of silly saying this, and the author will prove me wrong if he continues. But when the Chimera arc finished, I'm like, well, this could be the end of the show. And now I'm like, no, this was the end of the show. But if history's any indication, if it continued, I'd be like, no, actually, this would have been the right end of the show. And he did say he could write forever. I honestly can't believe I said that at that point, because I can't imagine the show without this arc. I am definitely going to do a Q&A for the show, even though the show is going to continue soon. This show was funny to me because it narrowly missed winning polls like 4 times. It kept coming in second. Finally got to watch it. Finally understand why people love it so much. It's an amazing show. I could imagine some criticisms for how it suffers over time due to the fact that there are certain elements that feel like a product of its time and age, but that's fine because underneath that is things that are just timeless and really unique, and I think unmatched in terms of this exploration and this message and the way it's delivered and the way it was approached. And wow, was it a memorable experience. It was definitely one of the most unique and interesting things I ever watched in just so many ways. Very much like the idea I've often brought up in the show about I reject your binary choice. Hunter Hunter is a shining example of the non-binary choice, right? Like, it's the novel, it's the new. It's not going to follow your expectation in this way or this way. It's going to do what it wants. It's going to have the ultimate being solve his life problems through chess, and you're probably going to cry for it. The main character is not going to defeat the villain by overpowering through summoning the power of friendship. He's going to turn his back on his friend and summon the power of demons and like die, and you're probably going to cry for that too. One of your main characters is not going to be around ever, and that's okay because we're happy Kurapika is living his gangster life. Yet underneath it is still this beauty, this heart, this earnest exploration into the human experience and adventure in one of the most fun ways imaginable. So thank you everybody so much for watching. Thank you to patrons for making this possible. As always, thank you to everyone for the insights, the information, the discussion, and for everything else that made this such a wonderful experience. See you very soon for the Q&A of Hunter x Hunter.